Hi, I'm Kevin Bolding, and this is First Friday Conversations, where we share the stories that make the Y a special place. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to First Friday Conversations. I'm Kevin Bolding, and it's so good to see you all. We're going to follow up on a conversation we had last month. If you remember, Pierce had just gotten his lifeguard certificate, and so he's launching into this space of being a YMCA staffer, saving lives, and so there's no more better time than to talk now about what it takes to save more lives. This month, several of our more seasonal pools are reopening, and with that comes many more opportunities for kids to be in pools and be happy, but we need to talk about what it takes to keep kids safe. So this month we are here with Carolyn, and she's going to tell us a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about our Safe Start program and what it takes to make that program great. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your family. You've been with us and around us. You have a huge Y history. So let's just start off with the Y history.
I can say, Kevin, I grew up as a YMCA kid in the Prattville YMCA as a mere child, taking my own swimming lessons, tennis lessons, soccer, and then was a lifeguard at that Y as my first job at 15. So I love the Y, and I love all that the Y teaches and models and enriches the lives of young people every day. But as an adult, I saw the opportunity for when we had children that there was a program called Safe Start. And I saw that modeled through other families that their kids would jump in and they'd swim, float at a really young age. And I was impressed. And I thought, I need to figure out what that is.
So long Y history. You knew the Y, you knew the brand, trusted organization. And so now you've got this beautiful child at the home, and how do you want to take care of your child? What's the thing that you said, hey, I need to make sure that my child knows what to be safe, especially here in Florida?
Well, I knew the statistic
Right.
that the number one death for children is drowning.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to be true about my family.
Right.
And so I wanted to enroll him in swim lessons and heard about Safe Start. And so we did just that. We did the 6 weeks program for 10 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. And he learned the skill of floating when he was in the water. We practiced with clothes on, which I thought was crazy, but that's what happens. They're usually all dressed up.
Right.
And that happened. It happened on a January cold night. I had him dressed for bed in his cute little PJs. Mm-hmm. We had dinner guests coming. We had the sliding glass doors open as we were grilling and preparing for our guests. And my husband opened the door to let them in and actually took out the trash. So he was coming in with them and saw a ripple in the pool.
Yeah.
And we had a water feature, but he knew he didn't turn it on. So instantly he yelled to me in the kitchen, Carolyn, Richard Heno's in the pool. And we both got to the pool, and he is floating.
Yeah.
We know he'd only been out there a few seconds, but the reality is he was alive.
Right.
He wasn't scared. We were crying, but he was confident of a skill he learned at Safe Start.
Yeah.
And as we were kind of all shaken up, and our guests were kind of blown away, like, he's alive.
Right.
You know, we were this could have been it. This could have been our story.
Yeah.
But he had a skill of a lifetime to float and to swim. At that time, it was really to float at 13 months. Yeah. And he floated. And he lived that out.
He lived it out. Amazing. You're going to get me all teared up in here, so I'm going to go a little different place just for a second.
Okay.
You know, I know also from being in the Y for so long that swimming and access to pools is probably the biggest issue that exists that's out there.
Right.
And I was talking with one of our other longtime Y members and donors and supporters, and I shared an ugly secret with her at one point, and I told her, here I am leading the Y, and I've shared this before in our First Friday messages, I'm not a swimmer. And she just said, well, Kevin, but how? She just couldn't understand it. She said, how in the world are you not? And I said, it comes down to access. I didn't grow up in a community around pools, didn't have access to pools. I think the first pool I really had access to is when we moved from DC to Virginia when I was starting 4th grade. And by that time, the fear had been deeply locked in. But what I knew is that when I was going to be old enough, I knew when we had our daughter, I'm going to make sure that she's going to get that access right out of the gate. So let's talk a little bit about access. This program, Safe Start, is a cheap program.
No, sir.
Costs a little bit of money.
I joke that I use some college savings to pay for Safe Start.
Yeah. But when we talk about investments that we have to make in programs like Safe Start, the opposite of the investment is the return on investment.
Right.
Have you seen the return on investment?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe swimming is a life skill. It's like riding a bike, but I believe it should be accessible to everyone. And you're not the first person that I've heard as an adult did not know how to swim.
Yeah.
And I believe for children, specifically in the area where we live, where there is a retention pond. I mean, if I knew the statistic, I should look it up. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a pond, a lake, a pool, and there's opportunities for the inevitable if they cannot swim. But I believe that children need the opportunity to learn to swim. It's a skill they can learn and master easily, and it's a great confidence builder for kids to know how to swim. I think it should be everywhere.
Absolutely.
Don't get me started.
No, this is perfect. I think with the why, what we try to do is we look at it and understand that we're going to make access to pools available at a variety of different levels for people. Right. So whether you want to talk about a safe swim program,
right?
A safe swim program, which is more around just getting kids acclimated to being in a pool,
right?
On one end of the continuum, to Safe Start, right, on the other end of the continuum. So, what do you tell your friends? How do you get other people involved? How do you help us to increase the awareness of the program?
I would tell my friends, you have invested in a skill of a lifetime, as your kids can swim. Would you be willing to generously support Safe Start to give another child an opportunity to swim, to learn to swim,
to save a life,
float, to save their life?
Right.
I think the reality is everybody has a story of knowing somebody that has lost a child to drowning.
Yeah.
And if you hear their story, they have an urgency to teach their children to swim because of what they heard. And what's the story you're going to have to impact the next generation of children with the ability to swim for a lifetime? Yeah. And possibly save their life and maybe their children's life. Yeah. I believe Safe Start's an investment in the lives of children for a lifetime.
May is Drowning Prevention Month, and at the Y, we take that work very seriously. I think all of us understand all the different things that we should be doing in our homes to keep our homes safe. So if you have a pool, you've got a gate around your pool, you've got high locks around the gate, and you're doing all of that, and you're doing everything that you've been told to do. But learning how to swim is the top skill. Learning how to swim is the fail-safe. And so we hope that you are coming out of this with a little bit of knowledge on it can happen in any family. It can happen in any household. It only takes a hot second for all of this to happen. And we hope that you're leaning in and finding ways to keep you and your family safe this summer.